Welcome to the podcast by Mata. I'm your host, Joe Mata. And today we have a very, very special guest. Our guest is a very seductive story writer, award-winning filmmaker, best-selling author, delivering a passionate blend story and explicit graphic content in only a way that she can. Please welcome to the show, Miss Kay Brandt. How are we doing?
Hi. Hi. I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, doing well, doing well. Glad to have you on. Yeah.
Glad to be here.
All right. Now I love the forked films. I love the concept of the YouTube show featuring beautiful women with sultry dishes and seduction shown in a way that only can be portrayed in the adult industry. How did you come up with this wonderful idea? And I would love to hear just how you brought cooking and sex together in this unique way.
That idea had been in my head for a while, at least 3 or 4 years. And it had a different name probably back in 2012 and 2013. And originally I sort of saw it as a softcore series for Showtime.
Uh-huh.
Not Showtime, but Playboy.
Okay.
And same thing, it would be primarily female adult stars cooking, and they would cook together all at the same time in the kitchen and just sort of talk about, who they are and what they like and what their passion is for cooking and how it, runs parallel with their desire and passion for being, for performing in movies.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of changes over at Playboy and that whole corporation back then, and so I put the idea on a back burner, and over the years it sort of evolved. And when I pitched it to Adam and Eve, no matter how hard I tried to explain it, it still left a big question mark over everybody's head about what is it? What is it exactly? What does it look like? What's going to happen in it? And all I could really say was, it's like a reality show featuring adult stars that are cooking live and also having sex. So I think it's undeniable the fact that the cooking shows, the cooking channels on cable are huge. They're
Mm-hmm.
so you can't deny the success of these shows and how many people really love to be inspired by cooks. And over the years, some more progressive shows have been coming out on the cooking channel and food TV that were a little sexier, a little bit more fun. And I follow a couple of chefs on Twitter, and I see just how crazy they are. Like Roy Choi, he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He's always posting some weird shit on Twitter. It just is so funny to watch his stuff. But yet he's this brilliant chef. So I thought, why not? Why not just do it like this, where I can showcase top talent in adult and who really can cook, and have them show it off. And boom, that's what happened.
Yeah, it was very, very unique and very, very positive idea. Now, one of our former guests we had on the show, Joe Filippone, was on it, and he said he just loved working with you, that I guess he's working with you. Joe Filippone?
Oh, yeah, Joe.
yeah, I like that scene with him and Mercedes as her little, I don't know what you call it, cook, sex slave type thing. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was... I had pictured before we filmed and before I'd even talked to Joe about being in it. Mercedes and I had talked about, how she saw her being the host, because I had to be really quiet about what I let go out on social media while I was in the audition phase, because originally I thought I could have people on, that I could have performers on that didn't cook, and maybe they would just be like a sous chef, on the side, like what happens with Mia Lee and Mercedes and Dame Dice's cooking segment, where they're doing all this chopping for him while he's talking.
Okay.
But honestly, that all comes down to budget, and the more bodies you add in, the more expensive it gets, and I really needed everybody in the cast to be able to cook. So Mercedes and I were talking about the fact that I wanted her to be sort of the cooking bitch, the one who comes in and dominates everybody, and it's her party, and she's lost control of it early on in the process, which I think is so funny, because you realize it doesn't even really matter if Fork had a host. it was just a way of connecting fans with, or viewers with the story going in, as opposed to just like, okay, now it's Genevieve and Christiane. Okay, now it's Dave and Dice and Mercedes and Mia. Okay, now it's, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It gave an opportunity to weave in more of a purpose that lent itself to reality television, or to something where you could just relax and enjoy the ride and not feel like it was just one cooking clip against a sex clip. So there were those things structurally that had to be ironed out in the pre-production process, when people were still asking me, including my own cameraman and production manager, what exactly is for? I couldn't explain it. I had there's a well-known attorney in the adult industry, Michael Fatarosi, and he and I had a pretty lengthy conversation about Fork before I filmed it, because he wanted to send in an audition tape and try out an audition to be the host. And I knew in my head he wasn't the right person for it. I knew that I was looking for a performer, but he was trying to imagine what Forked was, and in his mind it was a completely different concept than what I was doing. So I had a conversation with him to say, yeah, I know that that's what you're thinking, because everybody else seems to be thinking this too, like at Adam and Eve and the people who are sitting in audition tapes, and I just was like, it's not that, though. I promise you it's not that, and I really can't explain more than what I can explain, because I just didn't want it to be. I can't even tell you how many people told me in the industry, oh, yeah, well, I did a cooking show a couple of years ago for so-and-so company, and it was okay. It was kind of successful. It was this, it was that. I'm like, you're not talking anywhere near what I'm talking about for a cooking show, and you're just going to have to accept that.
Right.
And without me telling you any more about it, you're just going to have to be like, okay, let's see what Kay's going to do. And Mike Quasar was so funny. About halfway through the first day of shooting, he turns to me and he says, I had no idea what I was getting into when I told you that I was the director of photography on this cooking show, right?
Right.
So it really wasn't until we were on set that people started to understand what was going on. Right. I really just didn't want it to get out. I wanted it to be this big surprise about what it was. So when I was talking to Joe, it was very last minute, because I thought that one of the performers would be her kitchen slave, but the way that I was coming out structurally, when I was plotting out how we were going to do our shot list, each day, and we only filmed for 2 days, I realized that I needed another body there. And Joe, did it on sex role in my movie Safe Landings in 2015, and I knew he could do it. And he just came in and did such a funny job.
Yeah, he did.
As her kitchen slave. He was hysterical, totally goofy.
Yeah, he definitely was. That was definitely a great scene for sure. Now, the next question I've been saving it for a director and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's a question that I don't want to pass judgment on other performers, but this question is, like I said, one I've saved for a director. Who's the best actor in the business that you've had a chance to direct in, and why? What makes their acting skills like a little bit above the rest?
You're referring strictly to males right now?
Yes.
Okay. There are quite a few really good actors. There's really not. There are a couple that I feel all ranked the same, and that would be, like, of course, Xander Corvus. He's incredible. He gets a range of emotions that isn't common. So I know that I can rely on him to turn in a certain type of acting performance, like in Safe Landings. He just blew us all away with the level of emotion that he showed. As far as crying, he broke down in tears in one of the scenes where it was just him alone in the scene, and without even saying words. It's crazy. When I watch it, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to make me cry. Just watching that. But Marcus London is incredibly talented too. He is very strong when it comes to delivering dialogue that's written from a script and not just ad-libbing. Very strong and really easy to direct. See, that's the thing, is being able to just give the performer, of one piece of instruction as a director, and it tweaks the way that they were saying the line previously to exactly how it's supposed to be said. He's very good at listening to stuff like that, to directing. And that might be because he's a director too, and usually I think that sometimes when performers are also directing, they understand the process a little bit more,
right,
and how to dig a little deeper, perhaps. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
So those two males are probably my favorite actors. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Now, I've heard some buzz in the industry that you have a project in the works. It's like
I have a what?
A project in the works, like a horror movie type thing, mixed in with some
yes.
lust. Can you give us a little more information about that?
It's a crowdfunding campaign as it stands right now, but I am talking to other investors about just investing in it completely, because crowdfunding is tough, really tough. And I don't have enough hours in my day to be promoting it constantly, and that's really what it seems you need to do for crowdfunding. But outside of the financial aspect, Cutters is a erotic horror mainstream concept. So I mean the script to be mainstream. It's based on a novel that will be out published this summer, and it's going to feature a cast of performers and perhaps a few mainstream actors sprinkled in there. But I know enough about the people I work with in the industry to know that many of them were actors before they got into adult. Many of them are actors just because they're actors, whether it was before adult or while in it or after. There's enough substantial talent in the industry to make it a unique project that's actually featuring them in the cast and not just as the girl who will go naked when the mainstream actresses won't, or someone who will maybe fake a blowjob or something. Who knows? But I want to really show off their acting. It's similar to how I did with Fork.
Right.
The live cooking segments were almost as long as some of the sex scenes. So it was like equal parts this, equal parts that. And, but the movie itself is going to be mainstream, and my idea was if the crowdfunding campaign was successful, that people at the highest bid would get a director's copy DVD, which would actually be X-rated and would feature uncensored sex scenes or unedited sex scenes that we couldn't put in the mainstream version.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, so many few people. So many few people know about the difficulties about being a writer. How did you begin this adventure in the adult industry? Were you like writing scripts and story ideas before you got behind the camera?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was in mainstream for 20 years before I started making movies in adult. And I'd always written erotic content, and I wrote and produced a stage play in like 1996, I think it was, called Kiss Me Twisted, and that was an erotic stage play about two lesbian strippers who adopt a boy. Kind of about this wayward guy who hangs out at the strip club, and they invite him into their relationship to be a three-way. And I don't know where that idea came from or why I felt the need to write about those lesbian strippers, but I did. Okay. And the play was successful. It had a long run. And years later, I made it into a movie, two movies for Digital Playground called Cherry Episode 1 and Cherry 2. So, yeah, I've always been a writer. I've been a writer since I was a kid. I know that when there's lots of authors and screenwriters who come to writing later on in their life and they do it because they feel like they have a passion for it and they love to write, I don't necessarily feel that way. Sometimes I feel like writing is just a giant curse. And I wish that, that it just didn't rule my brain. And it feels like if I don't write, if I don't do it, that there's nothing else in this world that fits, and with that comes all of the sacrifices that must be made because selling books is difficult to make money at.
Right, especially now this day and age with all the technology and the books and whatnot, and it's really a lot difficult, a lot more harder. I've heard.
Yeah, it is, and it's a saturated field. But I was a screenwriter before I started writing books, and that's like speaking an entirely different language when it comes to writing. But regardless, I've always been a strong storyteller, more than, a lot of erotica writers really just are there to write the sex. They just want to write a book or a short story that's really just about the sex.
Right.
And that's hard for me to do. I always write more story. And that's also what attracted the owner of Girlfriends Films to reach out to me when he saw my resume on a mainstream online job board back in 2000. It was either 2008 or 2009. I don't remember. But he found me, and we started talking, and he wasn't quick to tell me that his company was a X-rated lesbian company at all. It took him a while, and then finally when he was, he was like, I really want you to write some scripts for me, he told me what it was, and I was completely freaked out. I was like, going to hang up the phone and go in the other direction because, if you're not in the adult industry, the preconceived ideas you may have about what it's like and how it runs can be a little daunting.
Right. That's for sure.
So I really didn't know what to expect, but I went down to his office, and I actually ended up really liking Dan, the owner of the company, or then he was the owner. And I really liked his team, and I really liked the kind of freedom he was offering me in writing these little lesbian movies. And then when he started convincing me that I should direct, that was another one of those things that took some time, because I just didn't feel, I felt terrified. I mean, the truth of it is, I felt terrified at actually being in the same room with people having sex and telling them what to do. It just seemed like such a foreign thing, such a strange thing for, for a woman especially to do. And he convinced me, but see, Dan then also had a lesbian camera girl named Candy Girl Carmichael, and she was very persuasive too, as far as having me come to set and direct the movies, not just write them or coach, like coach from a distance.
Right.
So I did. I just decided to stay one night, and it was the strangest, most bizarre thing I'd ever done. But the girls that were in the scene were so cool and so forgiving with my bad direction and just being an amateur, not really knowing what I was doing in that arena particularly. And then the rest is history. I just kept doing it, and then I got to the point where, like a year later, where I felt like it was time for me to direct bigger movies. And that opportunity was just not there at Girlfriends Films at the time. I mean, this was like back in 2010, and the industry was a very different place than it is right now. And I did. I left the company, and I went off to Digital Playground, and that's where I made the Cherry movies, which to this day are still the biggest budget lesbian features ever made in adult, and in many circles the movies are deemed classics.
Yeah.
Cult classics. They also swept the AVN and XBiz Awards in 2012.
Yep, I did. I got that here in my script. It was one of the questions I was going to bring up. All right. Hey, can you tell us which of your productions have been your most favorite in the adult industry, and why?
Oh, gosh, it's difficult. The Cherry films for a long time really kind of occupied a place in my soul that I didn't think any other movie could replace, because they were such special movies, and it was such an experience being able to film them. The entire experience, from when I first started writing the script to casting, because Cherry movies feature a mainstream actress in the lead role who was a non-sex performer, but it was the first time anything like that had ever been done, and it was a huge risk. But I think it makes the movie that much more unique. So that one was my favorite until I did Safe Landings in 2015, and the reason why, Safe Landings took over because it was based on a novel that I wrote as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just amazing to be able to take my book and create a screenplay from it, and then film it and see it come out. was just such an odd, surreal experience, but a career-changing one. And so that was Safe Landings, I'd say, is my favorite movie.
Okay, all right. Yeah, now since 2009, you've written and directed, produced more than 40 X-rated films. Many, of course, AVN and XBiz awards for top companies like Adam and Eve, Digital Playground, New Sensations, and Girlfriend Films. Is there a company that you haven't worked with that you would like to?
Yeah, there are a couple of companies that I'd really like to work with that I haven't yet, and I'm actually in discussion with all three of those companies that are on my list. So there's one company that I haven't, really talked about. I would love to make movies for Wicked, but that world belongs to some other people,
right.
Some other directors. So there's a part of me that doesn't like coming in and just being like, "Hi, I'm the new person." I'd like to take a little bit of the annual budget and make a movie too. And that's what it comes down to. And I got some of that weird vibe from other directors who were name brands at Adam and Eve for a long time. And it was a strange feeling, like somehow they were looking at me like, "Who the hell are you?" Right. And it was like, "Who the hell are you, dude?" Obviously I'm here because they're looking for new material. So I happen to be the one that's bringing it this time, and you're just going to have to accept it. That's a hard thing for competition, for other directors to even accept that there's anybody else that could have an idea that might be or more original than their own.
Right, that's for sure.
That happens in mainstream too. It's not just adult.
Right.
So anyway, those three companies that are on top of my list, I am discussing ideas with and potential projects, and I don't want to name names yet because, I just don't want to. I think two of them are going. If the deals actually work out, and I make projects for them, I think will shock everybody.
Okay. All right.
So I'd rather save the shock value for later.
There you go. All right. Okay, that sounds good. Now, hey, have you been recognized in public? And if so, you have any funny stories, interactions with the fans and whatnot?
Oh, say that one more time.
I was asking if you get recognized in public, and if so, have you had any funny stories, interaction with fans and?
No, I don't ever get recognized by the public, which is good. Because I don't necessarily. Even if I was well known in mainstream, it would still be uncomfortable to be grocery shopping and have people come up to you, and it's kind of strange. But I don't even get noticed by the public at adult events like XBiz and AVN or the EE. Nobody knows who I am at all except for the performers and some of the company owners.
Right. Okay. Now, when you're not working, what's a regular day like for you?
There's never a day when I'm not working.
Okay. Okay.
Because writing is a full-time job, but I also see writing as 24/7, so it's not like... writing is one of those things where the inspiration isn't always there when the time allows, and so if you feel something like you get a story idea or a burst of inspiration to finish a manuscript, at 11 o'clock at night, you have to honor that.
Okay. Now, are you going to be attending Exotica or any of the other shows that are coming up?
Not as a guest or somebody who's presenting anything, but at Exotica, I have been known to just show up and hang out and walk around. AdultCon in September, I will be there for 2 days. I'm speaking at AdultCon both Saturday and Sunday of that September event. It's like the 22nd and the 23rd. I don't have the dates right in front of me, but I'm going to be there talking, and that's the only event this year that I know of so far.
Okay, all right. Now, where can the fans find you on social media, and if they want to buy your books or look at any more stuff that you have out?
If you want to buy my books, and find out a little bit more about me in my author bio. You can find me on Amazon. Just type in Kay Brandt, and Brandt, Brant, with a D and a T. And you can find me there. You can find me on Twitter at my old company's name that I did the cherry movies with, and that was Jewelbox Films. That's JEWELBOXFILMS. On YouTube, you can find me at Kay Brandt, but that's just K, not K-Y. And Instagram, it's K with a dot, K dot Brandt. Facebook, Kay Brandt. I think that's it.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, that will do it for us, folks, today. I'd like to thank our host, Kay Brandt, and she gave out some great information about her stuff. And also, one last question: Are your books, are they on audiobooks as well, or?
I don't have any audiobooks yet, but so far, like even just in the past couple of months, I've had a lot of people asking me about that. So I definitely see making audiobooks as something that will happen this year.
Okay, all right, good to hear. All right, well, I'd like to thank our host again, Kay Brandt, and you can find us on YouTube as well as SoundCloud. We are the Podcast by Mata. I want to truly thank you guys for listening. I mean, you got a lot of options out there to choose, and you chose us to listen to, so I definitely want to thank you for tuning in, and I want to thank our guest again, Kay Brandt, for being on, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.